This is Jeffrey Harrison reading The Little Book of Cheerful Thoughts. Small enough to fit in your shirt pocket so you could take it out in a moment of distress, to ingest a happy maxim or just stare a while at its orange and yellow cover, so cheerful in itself you need go no further. This little booklet wouldn't stop a bullet aimed at your heart, and seems a flimsy shield against despair, whatever its contents. But there it is by the cash register. So I pick it up as I wait in line and come to a sentence saying there are few things that can't be cured by a hot bath, above the name Sylvia Plath. I rest my case, placing the booklet backed by its petite companions, sweet nothings, and simple wisdom, but not the Book of Sorrows, a multi-volume set like the old Britannica that each of us receives in installments of unpredictable heft and frequency over a lifetime. About the poem. I wrote this poem before the pandemic and before the murder of George Floyd, but there were plenty of horrible things going on in the country, as well as in my personal life, including the suicide of one of my oldest and closest friends. None of these things are in the poem explicitly, but they are certainly behind it.
The Contessas were a mid-1960s Inland Empire singing quartet that was the brainchild of former IE resident and future Grammy Award winner Jimmy Webb. The group members were Alice Wheaton, Susie Horton, Suzanne Weir, and Sharon Johnson. Alice was from Redlands, Susie from Colton, Suzanne from San Bernardino, and Sharon from Bloomington. The roots of Jimmy Webb's involvement with the Contessas date back to his 1963-64 senior year at Colton High School in California. It was there that he met fellow senior Susie Horton. Horton was a dancer, captain of the Colton High drill team, a member of the high school choir, and the football homecoming queen. Webb was the musically talented new kid in school transfer from Oklahoma. His father had moved the family to Colton when he took a pastoral position at a Baptist church in the city. By the end of the 1963-64 school year, Horton and Webb became a couple. After high school graduation, both headed to San Bernardino Valley College, where Horton became a member of the SBVC choir. Webb became the piano accompanist for the group. Webb at the time was an aspiring songwriter intent on breaking into the music industry. He needed a group to demo the songs he was composing. He handpicked the 4 members from the Valley College choir. He then began the process of shaping them into a singing group, the Contessas. It was determined that Suzanne would be front and center as the lead singer because of her 4-octave range voice, and the other 3 would be the backup vocalists. The Contessas performed at a variety of local venues. This San Bernardino Sun newspaper notice had them performing at a junior women's club and School of Hope haunted house in October 1965. Enter George Clements, who fronted the money and teamed with Jimmy Webb to record the Contessa's first 45. Clements produced while Webb arranged and conducted the session. No expense was spared as members of the legendary Wrecking Crew studio musicians were booked to play the backing instrumental tracks. Among those performing were former Inland Empire resident Hal Blaine on drums, Tommy Tedesco on guitar, Joe Osborne on bass, and Larry Knechtel on keyboards. After the session, drummer Blaine was particularly encouraging to Webb, telling him, "I know this is all confusing, but you just stick with the music, okay? The A-side was This Is Where I Came In, and the B-side was I Keep On Keepin' On. Both sides of the single were composed by Jimmy Webb. The E in E Records was a nod to E Street in San Bernardino, where cruising was the name of the game for Inland Empire youth. The publishing company for the tunes was Berdoo Music. Berdoo was local slang for San Bernardino. Meanwhile, Jimmy Webb acquired an entry-level position at Motown's Jobette Music Company Incorporated as a staff songwriter. It was this connection that Webb hoped would boost both his songwriting aspirations and the singing career of the Contessas. In Jimmy Webb's 2017 book, The Cake and the Rain, he spoke about the last days of the Contessas. He wrote, "The Contessas single fluttered unsteadily toward the sky and rock and roll heaven in the summer of '65 and came up short, plunging to earth after a few short weeks. Still, the ladies had created enough excitement that Motown West Coast president Mark Gordon offered them a recording contract at Motown. It was exactly as I had pictured it. And then, unaccountably, the Contessas began to talk about breaking up. Almost simultaneously, Mark Gordon resigned or was canned at the label. I found myself superfluous, and Jobette let me out of my songwriting contract. Sharon went back to Colton and married guitarist Greg Waitman. Alice went home as well and enrolled in classes with the intention of pursuing her dancing aspirations. Suzanne Weir threw up her hands at the unpredictability of show business and headed back toward academic circles. Susan Horton ended up at an insurance desk installed in an imposing skyscraper that stood just west of MacARTHUR Park near Wilshire Boulevard, and thus ended the tale of the Contessa's singing career. But for Jimmy Webb, his involvement with the Contessas was about to pay off dividends in the future. After leaving Motown, Mark Gordon became the manager-producer of singing group The Fifth Dimension. Remembering Jimmy Webb's work with the Contessas, Gordon paired The Fifth Dimension with Jimmy Webb in a relationship that was to be beneficial to both. The Fifth Dimension is seen here with engineer-producer Bones Howe and Jimmy Webb. The group recorded Webb's song Up, Up and Away. The tune was released as a 45 in the summer of 1967 and reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. The session drummer for the single was none other than Hal Blaine, who had encouraged Webb during the Contessa's first recording session in 1965. Up, Up and Away won 6 Grammys, including Record and Song of the Year, for 1967. Mark Gordon is seen here to the right of the Fifth Dimension and Jimmy Webb at the February 1968 Grammy Awards ceremony. Jimmy Webb's off-and-on relationship with Susie Horton would end up being a goldmine of inspiration that Webb would mine into such classic songs as Richard Harris's MacArthur Park, the Brooklyn Bridges' Worst That Could Happen, Glenn Campbell's Wichita Lineman, and By the Time I Get to Phoenix. But that's a tale to be told at another time. Stay tuned for a performance by the Contessas of their single, This Is Where I Came In, aired on the Chivalry TV show on October 30th, 1965.
to do. Which way is it where I keep me when I think I'm gonna cry? And I think I'm gonna go away. Now I'm
Let's get along. Come take a ride with me. We need the landscape trees, just kiss some miles and cut the distance in between. You never know where this all could lead. The humid sky above the rubber lovers, distant lightning, come with me. I've been looking for you. I've been looking for a sign. I've been wondering if you'll be mine. It's time to show what you could be with me. So if you wanna live, then let's begin with highways rushing past our knees. Let it go, sell it all to me. I'm not a backup plan, I'll be your man, pass you every time you need. I've been looking for you. I've been looking for a sign. I've been wondering if you'll be mine. It's time for thinking about myself. It's time for thinking about myself. I've been looking for you. I've been looking for a sign. I've been wondering if you'll be mine. No more looking for you. No more looking for a sign. No more wondering if you'll be mine. It's time for thinking about myself. It's time for thinking about myself.
Welcome to the Lo-Fi Lounge, and we're very lucky today to have Robert Diaz Leroy.
Yes.
Talk with us today about it, kind of his filmography, but we're really going to focus on his 1994 film River Bottom.
Hey, relax. Relax. Now we're gonna have some fun here, whether you like it or not. Now little Danny, he can't help because he's watching television.
If you had done Harry and the Hendersons, you wouldn't have done River Bottom.
Well, as part of the reason I came up with that story is so I get out of CalArts and because you were able to get me a job as an RSP teacher,
Special ed connection.
special ed connection at a middle school. I have no business teaching at a school, but I do. I can work. I could connect to these kids.
Right.
I could just connect with these kids, and I remember having these RSP students. It was the worst school to be at. That school was like
It's tough.
they had bodies found outside of it, and all this
Tough area.
rampant crime. And a number of the kids that I was working with were living out. I mean, there was no home. They were
Yeah,
sleeping
yeah.
on park benches.
Homeless kids.
These were homeless kids coming to
Still
school.
coming.
And I decided this is the story I wanted to tell, but I wanted to make it about two homeless kids.
Right.
And I was able to write that script, and we did this. I mean, we had no money to make it. We have literally, I think it's just under $40,000 to make this film. But then it goes back to the music thing. I was inspired to go into films because of Around Midnight. So I find when I'm casting a film, it's about a jazz musician. We anchored the story around this homeless jazz musician. And we found Teddy Edwards. And so, which is an amazing find.
Yeah.
The fact that we get this kind of
Unsung hero,
Unsung-
jazz hero.
and even, like you didn't even realize that.
I recognized his name. Then the more I was reading about him, I said, well, he's a contemporary, or he roomed with Charlie Parker. So as a writer, arranger, performer who gravitated to California in that era, it's kind of like the Mosley books, Devil in the Blue Dress, all this black culture in Los Angeles. There was some jazz music that was pulled in that supported that or celebrated or grew from that. You would never get used to at one level, such a humble person. But the more the film went on, I go, oh no, this guy, he's a jazz legend.
The first went to the Musicians Union, and they go, well, go to this one club. And remember, it was just this kind of series of happenstances.
Random.
And we go to this one club, and no, Teddy's not here. He's somewhere playing Europe. He was coming back from Europe.
Yeah.
Or something. I get this phone call. I hear you're looking for me. Who is me? This is Teddy. Here you're looking for me. And you talk about, lives in this tiny little place, like over a garage.
Yeah.
And here's this legendary jazz musician, and we just allowed us. I mean, there's a whole section of the film. I said, well, don't worry about what I wrote. Just tell your story.
Yeah.
Just tell us, as the Marcus character, tell us what happened to you.
Yeah.
And he articulates in the film exactly his own history masked inside this fictional character of Marcus.
There's many different kind of wars that people have to fight. And I guess we're just two more casualties.
Mother left us. She's not ever coming back. I know, Daddy. She's not coming back.
2, 1.
There ain't no palm trees where I come from. No big waves crashing on the shore. No gridlock traffic and no movie stars now. In Park, California I come from. Now we got oil fields in the Central Valley. We got cowboys out in the Mojave. Salinas Valley, yeah, where I come from. We got farms far as the eye can see. I got good friends out in Texas, and I got family in Tennessee. This here country boy's from California. There ain't no place I'd rather be. There ain't no place I'd rather be. Yeah, from Paso Robles to the Owens Valley, from Mount Shasta on down to Salton Sea. Well, that's where I pick this guitar, that's where I write these songs. And there ain't no place where I'd rather be. I got good friends out in Texas, and I got family in Tennessee. This here country boy's from California. There ain't no place I'd rather be. There ain't no place I'd rather be. There ain't no palm trees. There ain't no movie stars. In the part of California I come from.
Now, The Dangers in 2010, from the vault in Redlands, Bob Venom, Tim McLaughlin, Brad Vaughn, and myself playing Broken Wing.